YouTube, and welcome back to my channel, Quails, Bees, and Gardens. This video is going to be a recap of my week 3 beekeeping class. Now if you're here and you hadn't seen the recaps for weeks 1 and 2, please click on the link that's in the description box and it will take you to a playlist that I've created where all of my recaps are going to be placed. So that way you can go view those if you would like, and we'll be on the same page. Now at the end of those videos, I have started sharing some fun facts that I'm learning about the bees. And if you stay to the end of this video, I do have another fun fact that I would like to share with you about the bees. Now, if you have fun facts that you would like to share with this community, feel free to do so. Just use the comment section and place whatever you would like, and we can just start a discussion about those. So, getting right into it, we went over 4 different topics in the last class. The first topic we went over was pollination. The second topic we went over was the bees' stocks and the different breeds and races of bees. The third topic we went over was swarming, and the last topic we went over was seasonal management. And what that means is they gave us a 12-month breakdown of the different things that we needed to be doing throughout the entire year to make sure that when bee season arrived, we would be successful. So, when we get to that section, I'll be going more in detail about what those different duties and tasks are. So, getting right into it with the first topic. That first topic is pollination. Now, speaking about pollination, I want to put that to the side for a moment, and I want to take you to a gardening term, and I want to explain that and then bring pollination back into it, and you'll understand why once I do it. So, if you're a gardener, you have a grow zone map that you go by. You put in your zip code, and it tells you what grow zone you're in. Now, according to my zip code, I am in what they call grow zone 8. And what knowing what my grow zone does for me is that it lets me know what types of vegetables and plants grow in my area, grow zone 8, and it lets me know the best time of year to plant these vegetable plants and flowers, and it lets me know when I can expect a harvest. And they are able to get this information by grow zone because over time they have collected typical weather conditions in that area. So to drill it down even further, let's take a tomato. Now in my grow zone, I may be able to grow a tomato 2 times a year to get the best harvest. Now another person that stays in another grow zone, they may only be able to plant this tomato 1 time of year because of typical weather conditions. And then you might have yet another person that is not able to grow the tomato at all because of typical weather conditions in their area. So, I've explained that to you. Now let's go back to this bee foraging regional map. It's kind of based on the same idea, and it's a guide that you use to see what sources of pollen and nectar a bee can get from your area or your region. So just like when you're planting vegetables and crop and flowers, you need to know what time of year these things are produced. These things grow in your area, or what grows in your area, you need to know the same thing about the bees. So just like it is important for a gardener to know what grow zone they live in, it's going to be just as important for a beekeeper to know what bee foraging region that they stay in. So it's a very tight correlation. And as I said in the class, I couldn't help but have the feeling that I was in the right place, because um, while I'm while I am interested in the journey of eventually becoming a beekeeper, I'm also dabbling a little with the gardening. So it's validating my path of even trying to be a beekeeper. So I did have a feeling of satisfaction once that information was brought out. So just like you can Google the grow zones for your crops that you grow, if you put in the search engine the bee foraging regions, you will find a similar map, and you can find out what region you're in, and you can find out what are the best sources for the bee to get the pollen they need, and also to get the nectar that they need. That's gonna be a great resource, because if you recall, in my first two videos, we spoke about the nutrition that the bee needed, and how you had to plan ahead, and if you didn't have certain sources where the bee would have an adequate amount of pollen and nectar, that you may want to think about planting these things. I talked about that in the first couple of videos. And I think it was my second video where I even shared, a list of what different type of sources the bee can get, either the pollen or the nectar. Well, after taking this class, you may take that list that I gave you with a grain of salt, because now we have more information. You're going to want to go to that bee foraging map, and you're going to want to find out what region you're in, and those are the things that you're going to want to plant if you don't have these sources on your property. So that was definitely something that was of great interest to me, being a gardener. So let's go on to the second topic. Now, the second topic, as I said, was the different stocks, breeds, and races of bees. Now, I'm going to be looking at some of the notes I took. So if I look down, please bear with me. I hope the information is enough to keep you engaged, because I know that you could be distracted, because I don't have all of the equipment I need to make like a high quality video, and I understand that the phone may be moving around, but I'm hoping that the information that I'm sharing is keeping your attention, and that you're able to bear with me and to look over these things. So let's go over what they shared with us, the different bee races. So I'm gonna go. It's eight races or stock that they shared with us. I'm just gonna list those out, and then I'm gonna go back and share a couple of things about these races. So let me get to that information, and like I said, just bear with me. So here we go. The first race of bees is called the German bee. Next, we have the Italian bee. Then we have the Carnolian bee, and I may be saying that incorrectly, but I'm doing the best I can here. The next one is the Caucasian bee. Now, the next four bees are genetically modified. So if that's something that you're that doesn't bother you. No judgment here. But these are, and the first bee up under the genetically modified bee, you'll be able to tell why it was genetically modified just in the title. So this bee is called the Minnesota hygienic bee. So we can deduce from the title that it's a clean bee. They were bred to make sure that the hives are kept clean. Now the next genetically modified bee is the buckfast bee. Then we have the Russian bee. Then we have the Africanized honeybee. So those are the 8 that they went over with us. And let me go to my notes that says just a little bit about each one of them. Now, let's go back to the German bee. They are, they're good at overwintering. Now, just as I said about the grow zones for crops and the bee foraging region maps for bees, overwintering is a gardening term also. Now, overwintering in gardening, and it happens to mean just the same thing with the bees, is let's take a jalapeno plant. I plant it according to my grow zone when it calls to be planted. It goes through its growing cycle, and then I can prepare it after it's given its harvest. I can prepare this jalapeno plant to go into a dormancy state, and then it will be dormant throughout the cold months, and then when its season comes back around, it will rejuvenate itself, and it will go back through the cycle of producing the jalapenos and going back through another harvest. Well, that is called overwintering. And that is the same thing that the bees go through, because they have a season. It's the spring season when it's hot, when the vegetables are growing and they're pollinating the flowers and the crops. Well, they don't go dormant per se, but their activity is less, and they don't go out and they don't forage, and so you have to provide their nutrition. And so that period when the bee season is over is called the overwintering. So this German bee is good at overwintering, meaning they get through the cold months really well if you take care of them the way you're supposed to. You shouldn't have a problem with them being healthy when the bee season comes back around. So that's the German bee. Let's see if there's something else about the German bee. They have, it says low gentleness. I think we can determine what that means. It means that they're not the calmness to the beekeeper when the beekeeper needs to go in and do the things they need to do to maintain the hive and to keep the bees healthy. Their gentleness is low. So if you get a German bee, you need to know that about them. And it says that they have a low spring buildup. And what that means is bee season starts in the spring. Well, when spring hits, they're still going through, they're a little slow getting started, is what they're saying, meaning it's a slow spring buildup. So if you get the German bee, you have to know that about them. So the next race is the Italian bee. Now, it says, now with them, that race of bee is known to be good honey producers. So if you are just really, into the beekeeping business, solely your mind is only on the honey, this Italian bee may be the way to go. Let me see, they're good at overwintering as well. And they are good house cleaners as well. Um, Next, we'll move to the carnelian bee. The carnelian bee, it says they are explosive. They have an explosive spring buildup. So what's that saying is, as soon as spring hits, they're ready to go. They're already in their cycle. You don't have to do anything. They're ready to go. So if you have this carnelian bee, that's where this bee foraging regional map is going to be important for you to have, because they're not wasting time. When spring comes, they are ready to go. So they're already out of the hive looking for sources of nutrition. And so if you have this information, that's why it's good, if you want to be an educated beekeeper and you have this race, you'll want to start looking at the pollen sources and the nectar sources. And if you don't have this on your land, you'll want to start growing this stuff. You may have to do what we do in gardening and even starting this stuff inside or in a greenhouse, so that when these bees, when springtime comes, they will already have something to start, because you can lose your bees that way too. If they have an explosive spring buildup and you don't have anything for them to eat. Now, I think we learned that they will travel up to a 2-mile radius, and you'll still have them. But if they have to come and go outside of that 2-mile radius, they may go back to the hive and do that waggle dance that we talked about, and let them know that they found a source past 2 miles from where you're keeping them. So that bee foraging map is going to be key in situations like this. So the next race of bees is called the Caucasian bee. Now, it says that they are gentle. So if you are a beekeeper and you struggle with bees that is doing a lot, this may be the way to go, because this race is known to be gentle. It has a long tongue. Some bees tongues may not be as long, but because this race of bee has a long tongue, it is able to receive the pollen and the nectar it needs from an array of sources, whereas another bee that doesn't have like the long tongue, they may be limited to certain sources because their tongue isn't long enough to get down and get what they need. So this may be a consideration to a beekeeper, depending on what he has for his bees to get these sources from. So we're getting into these genetically modified bees. The first one is, like I said, was the earlier was the Minnesota hygienic bee. Now they also, this bee is modified to be disease resistant. So this bee, if you don't have any qualms about dealing with genetically modified things, then this bee may be a choice for you. It keeps the hive clean, and you don't have to worry about some of the diseases that that some beekeepers go through that are keeping their bees naturally. The next bee, modified bee, is called the buckfast, and it is resistant to a certain type of pest called the mite. So if you have found that you are not able to control the mites as you should, a person may opt to go with the buckfast bee. We have the Russian bee next, and it it creates a lot of propolis. And we talked about propolis in the first video. So, and I think I brought out about propolis that it can be processed down to into a tincture, and it has great health benefits. So if you're into that kind of thing, and a lot of people don't like the propolis, but if you're into that, this may be the bee, because they produce lots of that. And then the last bee was the Africanized honeybee, and it says they call them killer bees. Now, I meant to do some research, and I do apologize for that, but it said that they were en route some years ago out of Africa to the States. And you may want to Google this and do a little bit more research for yourself if you're interested. But it's they told us that these bees made it as far as Georgia, and Georgia has a lot of foraging there, and so a lot of bees are already in Georgia. So they think that the Africanized honeybee switched routes, because as we know, as we learned in the first video, these bees do not leave a feeding source until it's depleted. So it appears to me, as it was explained, that by the time these Africanized honeybees got to Georgia, it was already on lock. So they turned around, and so they went another route. But they said it's a possibility that they could make their way back here by boats. I'll have to do a little bit more research about that, and I'm sorry I wasn't prepared for that. That was something that I wanted to do more study on and to bring to you. But like I said, if that's something you want to do, you are able to. So it seemed like it's a good thing for now that they were turned around. Okay, so that is it as far as the bee races and stocks. So the next topic is swarming, and this is going to be rather short. The reason why they swarm is for a couple of reasons. The hive that they're currently in has become overpopulated. So what they're having to do is leave the hive to go find another place that's bigger, and that's going to provide more nourishment that they need. The living conditions have become crowded in the hive. That's one reason. Another reason is because the queen, her pheromones are low. And the pheromones are what's keeping the worker bees. That's what they smell. And that's what causes them to follow her. So if her pheromones are low, due probably to her age, or I don't know, maybe a sickness or whatever, that will cause them to swarm too. And what that means is they all get together, and not all of them, but part of the hive with the queen will get together and leave and find another place to reside. And before they do that, you have, I forget if it's the worker bees or the drones, who start breeding queen bees. So they leave queen cells in the original hive, so that some of the bees that don't go, they will have a queen, and then you'll have two hives, one that's flown away, and then the ones that you have that did not leave. And it sometimes it doesn't happen just one time where the bees get together and swarm. you'll have, so after the initial swarm, if they get together into more swarm, it's called an after swarm. Um, so they go through that, and this is the interesting fact. If you stay towards the end of the video, these queen cells that they leave in the hive, they have an interesting behavior that I want to share with you, and I feel like you will find it interesting as well. So we've gone over the reason why they would swarm. So if you notice that happening, and if you check your frames that go inside the hive, there are some signs that you will be able to tell that they may be getting ready to swarm. Outside of that waggle dance that we talked about a few weeks ago, that's a sign that they may be getting ready to swarm. And you can see some actual, what they call swarm cells. That is an indicator also. It's not an absolute indicator, but it can be an indicator that they may be getting ready to swarm. One moment. Sorry about that. And if you notice that, if being an educated beekeeper, you will, there's certain things that you can do to try to prevent this. Which, if you go back to, I think, my introductory video, when I was telling you that the place where I'm taking the bee classes, they were suggesting that you get 2 hives at once. And then I was kind of looking at it like, okay, that's, I don't think that that's necessary. But now I'm seeing that it is necessary, because if you have that extra hive, you already have the equipment on hand, and you can go ahead and set up that second beehive to be a place where the swarm goes into. And you have to be quick about this, because they're trying to get to sustain their lives. So once you notice that, you want to go ahead and set up that, at least that second hive, or at least add another box on top of it, or the bottom of it. We'll get into how that goes later. I'm not sure I think it goes on the bottom. I'm not sure, but you have to add that other box to give them more room. So even having the one box and being educated enough to know there's a sign they may be trying to swarm, you may be able to save your bees that way. You can set up swarm traps on your property. If you are a first year beekeeper, you're not going to have the bee comb, but you can, if you're a part of a club or taking bee classes like me, you have relationships with people who have been doing this for years, and they may give you some of their honeycomb so you can use as trap, because it has the queen bee pheromones in it, and once they go to swarm, they'll find this bait, and you can keep them that way and hurry up and get them to the second setup that you have. So they explained that to us also. And that's basically, it wasn't a lot on swarming. So I'll go to the seasonal management, and it's, I'll just go through the months, and let you know what they say you should be doing. And it's not an extensive list. It just lets you know that there's things that you need to be doing, every month. So let me get that information. Okay, so let us run through these really quickly. From January 1st to January 15th, you'll be getting your boxes. You'll be painting them. You'll be getting the extra boxes that I talked about, in case the bees swarm. You'll have your equipment on hand. From January 15th through February 1st, you'll be checking for pollen and feeding them. You'll start feeding them syrup if they're low on honey, or you'll give them dry sugar. Is what they said. And so, and all of these they went extensively into. Again, I'm just doing a brief overview. So February 15th through March 1st, you will be verifying the honey and pollen stores in the hive. You will be removing the, I'm trying to think of how to say this pest name, the veromites. You will be removing that treatment. So we're starting in January, but apparently we'll see where we are instructed to treat our hives for these veromites. So here, between February 15th and March the 1st, you will be removing those treatments because they have to stay in the hive so many days. Also during this time, you'll be putting out your bait in order to catch hives. I'm sorry, in order to catch swarm, in case you have your bees trying to swarm. So that's the time period that you'll be doing the stuff to try to prevent that. So March 1st through March 30th, you'll start your inspections of the hives and the frames. You'll be checking to see if they started some brood cells, they call it, and you'll be adding your extra boxes. And April 1st is the start of bee season. You'll be checking to see if you got enough storage. You'll be again making sure, double checking that you have all the equipment that you need in case they try to swarm. You'll be making the splits, something that they call splits, for the overcrowding too, making sure you do those depending on how your bees are growing and populating. And you'll be making sure that they have a good water source. From June 15th to July 1st, you'll be harvesting your honey. And then after you do that, you'll start your cleanup process. You will be removing the extra boxes that you used, cleaning those up. If you use what they call a queen excluder, you will be removing that. July the 1st, again, you will inspect. You will do the treatment again for the veromites, and you will be making your splits for the fall. They suggest August 15th to September 15th that you will requeen if you need to, and then you will remove that veromite treatment. From September to October, you will be combining your hives. You will inspect your hives again to see if the beetles, that's another pest that you have to look out for. So you'll be looking for those between September and October. In October, also, you'll be reducing the entrance to the hive that they use to 5/8 of an inch, and you will leave a 1/8, I believe, a 1/8 crack in the front of the hive for ventilation. You will begin feeding your hives a 2-to-1 solution of water and sugar if their honey stores are not adequate. That's what you will be doing. And you will start preparing them for overwintering. From November to October, you will evaluate the hive and continue to feed them. And in December, you will begin to make repairs and do the veromite treatment again. So we are at the end of the video, and as I shared, there are two facts that I want to share with you. The first fact is not so much a fun fact, but it kind of hit me when in the class they referred to the bees as livestock. And once you think about it, it is a livestock. It is an animal that you are taking care of on your property. And you have to answer to authoritative agencies regarding these bees. It's serious business. Some of the diseases that these bees can get are what's called common, and you don't really worry too much about them. They're treatments that you can get to treat them yourselves. You can even go to a vet office, and get certain things to help keep your bees healthy. I thought that was interesting. Some of the diseases that they can get are very serious, to the point where you will have to get rid of your bees. And one way they explained, I think we'll be going deeper into that with my next recap. They will come out and inspect, and if they have these certain things, you will have to dig a hole in the ground. You would have to put the bees in there, the bee boxes, the bee suits, your gloves, everything that you've used, the hive tools and stuff to get in the hives, everything that you've used on those boxes will go in that hole, and you have to set it afire and burn it to ashes, and then bury it with the dirt that you dug out. That's how serious this particular disease is. So I thought it was interesting that they're called livestock, and some of the measures you'll have to go through if they contract some certain diseases. Like I said, it is a fact, but it's not a fun fact. But the other thing that I wanted to share that I said I would get back to, when we were talking about swarming and how the worker bees are the drones. I'm not sure which one, but they create the swarm cells and the queen cells when a bee is getting ready to, a beehive is getting ready to swarm and separate itself. So they leave some queen cells in there so that the bees that did not go with the first swarm, or even the swarms that may have occurred afterward, they will have a queen that will hatch and will get acclimated to the old beehive. Well, what was interesting to me is that they even showed us a video of the different sounds that the bees make and what they mean. So you think that the only thing they do is buzz, but they do something called piping, and that's what these queen these queens that they leave in the original hive. Well, when the first queen emerges from the cell, because they leave several queen cells, and we know there can only be, that's kind of getting into, but just to keep it simple, one queen bee per a hive. So if they have left 4 queen cells, there can only be one queen. So the first queen who emerges from her cell will do something called piping, and it is a different sound from the buzzing. And what she does, she calls out in this piping, and the other queen bees who have not emerged from their cell yet will answer her, and it's called cackling or something. That's yet another bee sound. And the reason why this first queen does that is so that she can locate where these other queens are, and she will sting them while they're still in their cell and kill them before they ever get a chance to emerge out. So she kills the competition. So I thought that was something that may be interesting to share with you. And like I said, if you have some facts that you would like to share, please drop them down in the comments. And, I would love to hear them. That stuff interests me. And maybe we can start a dialogue about that. I did speak with my instructor about some different routes I can take to make sure that I'm able to even participate this bee season. And I will be sharing that information with you. Just the bare minimums that I can get, because as I shared in my introductory video, I have a couple other hobbies that require finances from me, and so there's only so much that I'm willing at this point to put into this new hobby, but it seems like it may be feasible. So I will be sharing that with you as it develops. So thank you so much for watching. If this is your first time and you like the information that you've heard so far, please consider subscribing. And if you're a returning viewer, I so appreciate you so much, and thank you for supporting my channel. And if you haven't subscribed, please, if you think the information is going to be helpful to you or it's interesting, if you would consider subscribing. A lot of times I know people don't like to like a video until they actually see it. So at this time, this is the end of the video. So if it's content that you have liked, if you would take a moment and do a thumbs up, I would appreciate it. And if you know someone else that might benefit from this information, I ask that you would share it. So thank you again so much for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.